So, who was your favorite Athena player?
As good as a job as Brad did writing them as unique individuals, and as good as the narrator did as storytelling them as individuals, I still don't know one from the other. I'm just going to
Okay.
be honest with you. So the only one I can really point to is Gretchen. But who's the one who was on the motorcycle, who was chasing
That
somebody down,
that was
blowing up
Julie.
cars?
That was Julie Erickson.
Julie Erickson. Oh, that was pretty badass.
She's the tall. She's the tall one, I
She's
think.
a tall one. Who's the
No,
one who
no.
interrogates people?
Megan Rhodes is the really tall one because it was pretty funny. It was like that old board chat guy, like the old army guy who's like
Right.
50 years old, was just constantly flirting with her, and he called her an Amazon, and yeah, that was pretty. Those scenes were pretty funny, and she was just giving it right back to him. So
that's right. And then the ending, she like actually goes after a guy in a bar, and they're all, or like, I think Rob Hutton, the boss, is like, "Oh, I got a note from Soychek that he's looking for you now that the op's over," and they're all like, "Fuck off, bro." Who was your favorite? Because I mean, I would say the one on the motorcycle, because that scene was pretty cool, where she was chasing cars, blowing up cars, and all this stuff.
yeah, probably Gretchen. I'd have to go with Gretchen. I think,
Right.
That's Southern. I like especially when you listen to it on audiobook. You get she actually like sort of tweaks the accents because Megan was a daughter of a Chicago cop.
Right.
And Alex Cooper is like the shy one. Yeah, between Julie and Alex, like, the only thing I remember about Julie is that she was the one who was placed always on like driving, and she was the one, the logistics leader, and maybe didn't necessarily want to do that every time. But I thought Gretchen was a good leader, and definitely stood up for her team. And yeah, I probably had to go with her.
Yeah, I hear you there.
I like the jealousy between her and Riley. Brad's or not Brad, Scott's new love interest. And I like how Brad writes it. You kind of like, I don't know if he was writing in a little bit of sexual tension between the two of them in the last novel, but then in this novel it's kind of like boom, all gone away. He wants nothing to do with Gretchen right now. He's all focused on this Riley character and wants nothing to do with Gretchen.
Yeah, like I was saying, I think that love triangle, I would like to see it be worked out on page a little more. I think it was again hinted at. So yeah, so like we're in a Tracy, we should bring up Tracy. I was going to say we're in a post Tracy, period. We got to get Scott's next love interest, but Tracy's still around. I love when she's called in to go to Paraguay as the EOD tech. And man, she's able to classify this EMP and realize what it is, break it down, explain to the team, but she's totally confused by the limbs in the concrete. And eventually, she wants into the game, and they need her kind of. There was that other guy. Who was the other guy on the ground in Paraguay? And they're going to be like working together over there.
He was a doctor who was actually a spy for us.
That's
down
right.
Trying to get into the this sort of no man's land in Paraguay. Yeah, I read that as I was like, oh, that's cool. Tracy's back in the action. Interesting that we just we kind of got like a sending off page in the last novel. To me, this read as if Brad liked the character too much to leave her like that and wanted, because I think at the very end he mentions that the two of them, maybe had something and are going to continue working together, maybe a love interest budding. So, a sense to like leave her on better terms than just having Scott be the one to say, I can't be with, we mutually agreed to part ways, because he wants a family and she can't give it to him. So.
Yeah. And that's rehashed again. But I think another cool thing it's doing, it's just expanding the universe, right? Like, why not give us a glimpse of someone that I'm not going to say tossed away, and I'm not using that lightly, but like is out of Scott's life that he's moved on from. We're going to know how his universe continues. Well, her life does too, right? Her career does too, with what she's facing, and they're in the same universe. And so, yeah, they're both going to at some point either cross paths directly or be working on some op that they're familiar. They have some familiarity that the other one is also involved. And so I think it's just kind of cool that we know she's out there doing her job. And if we never see her again, we can just assume she's doing her job because she's really good at it. And she has her own things. I think it kind of validates her as a character because we kind of had this heartbroken story where she can't provide Scott what he wants, and she mutually agrees that it's best for the both of them to go their own ways. They have different goals in life, and it's really cool to know she's still out there doing her thing.
Yeah, and I like when, like when he brought Beck and Claudia and Claudia's husband or fiance, whatever
Right.
it was. Those kind of things are fun. Like you said, just to give us a sense that this is a universe. And
Yep.
I almost crave more of these types novels. Like, yeah, I like our yearly edition, but I like, there's a reason that I like Term Limits. There's a reason that, we like American Assassin and Kill Shot is one of my favorite novels. And I mean, yeah, I guess it's all in the continuation, but the way it came to us was later on. And obviously I would love to see a Scott and Brett and Mitch team up, like, do they exist in the same, because I guess we would never be able to see a Scott and a James Reese, because in James Reese's world, Scott is a book character, right? So
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. No, I agree with you. These books are fun, and the fact that you can approach it, like I said before, with this lighter sense of, there's no weight of this book has expectations. When you're waiting a whole year for the next in the series, the serialized storytelling, you put a lot of expectations on that book and that author. And I actually sometimes just picking up a book saying, hey, I know it's a spinoff, or I know it's a one-off, or I know it's something else in another corner of the universe. It doesn't have the weight of needing to satisfy, certain story plot lines that have been going on 2, 3, 4, or even 15 books. We can kind of step away from that and just tell a kick-ass story. And you drop the Athena ladies right into that, and I'm here for it. It really worked out for me.
Yep.
Are there any other storylines or characters, or do you want to try to wrap up our thoughts and put it together using the scorecard? What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think we hit on all the points.
So before we give our scores, we didn't even kick things off, Chris, how we usually
I know,
do.
we kind of just went right into it, right, Mike?
Yeah, so I mean, if we're going to give our scores, let's also give the Goodreads scores, because we've been referencing them. I know you do your research here. What were the actual Goodreads and Amazon scores for this one?
Yeah, and like you said, we rarely see a book that's below 4 on Goodreads, but this one had a 3.87 and a 4.1, which is low for Amazon. Amazon tends to be higher for most things. So I don't agree with either of those scores. Take them with a grain of salt. Read this novel. I don't know. I would love to get a female perspective on this novel, what they think. Any of our, Dawn, Sherry, Peggy, Bridget, let us know. Our patrons, any other female listeners we have, hit us up on Twitter, Instagram. Let us know what you think, because we're just two dudes reading about, some interesting topics. I'll leave it at that. And
yeah,
so
I could see both sides too.
Right.
I could see someone being so happy there are female operators in a book, and then I could see somebody saying, "Well, why is it written by Brad or a man?" And then someone else saying, well, why is their biggest draw the sex appeal on every op that they do? And I mean, I could see that side too. I don't think it's reducing them in any way because they're still amazing operators. But I think whatever somebody else's perspective is on it, I'd be willing to accept because, yeah, I can go both ways on that.
Yeah.
But I could tell you my thoughts are clearly summed up in this limerick. There once was a project named Athena, chasing down leads of a grand schema. Alex and Megan, Julie and Gretchen, damn, they make one badass teama. Athena, schema, teama. There's no rhymes for Athena.
I'll give you E for effort.
A stretch. All right. Yeah, I get some stretch points there.
There you go.
I had to stretch it out. All right. So that's what the people thought of this book. What did you think about the action and the plot?
The action was pretty good for me. I'm gonna go 8.5 on the higher end.
Yeah.
One of the
I'm
things
giving it the 9.
we didn't talk about was the opening scene. This prologue in France, this Jacqueline Marceau character battling on a plane. We're dropped immediately into the scene, and it was pretty exciting.
Yeah, no, it was. You got a hand fight on this plane with this prisoner, parachuting with the briefcase. I mean, then we go right into the Bianchi op, which I told you I really liked in Venice. And then we didn't even talk about half of these other action sequences. There's just almost too many. There was another parachuting one, which really reminded me of Transfer of Power, getting on the roof
Yes,
of the White House. Yeah,
yes,
they nearly overshoot the landing. I think it was Julie, maybe, who actually
yeah.
falls
It
off the
was
roof.
yeah, but she gets caught right by like something.
Yes. Which is kind of, again, like Transfer of Power, a gust of wind or the directions change. So they overestimate. They almost go off the side of the roof. Like, yeah. And then the elevators, there's somebody on the comms who is sequencing the elevators and unlocking doors for them to move through this building. Just a whole lot of really cool action sequences. So I'm giving it that 9. It really worked out for me.
Okay. What about the plot?
Overall, I liked it. Some of the connections, like the stuff at the Denver airport and the listening, maybe could have been tied in a bit more authentically. Certain parts of the plot were maybe more drawn out than others that didn't need to be as long. And I think the big reason I'm going to go down here to a 7 is almost too many cooks in the kitchen. The plot, I think, would have been better served with fewer people. Maybe take out a few of those. This bad guy leads to that bad guy. Bronco Koyage leads to Thomas Sanderson, who leads to, and first off, it was Bianchi. One too many of those, I think, just muddied the waters a bit. So I'll give it a 7.
Yeah, I'm kind of around the same thing, and it could have been a little tighter. We could have had, but I did like its brevity. I liked the fact that it was, a shorter novel. It didn't feel like it was missing anything. I didn't find that I needed to go off on another side quest, another mission with the team. I felt that it was tight in that sense, but just, like you said, a lot that was hard to keep straight. These, the bad guys, and I think that's also going to reflect in the bad guys score. We weren't given enough time to like develop with them. Yeah, and then obviously, this is both it's going to be dinged in buy-in as well, and dinging a little bit in plot here. I think the combination of just like the unbelievability, some of the aspects of conspiracy theories that were thrown in, it's just, I don't know, maybe like a 7.5. Maybe that 7's too harsh, but
Yeah, 7 is a little bit harsh. I think because of that, though, I'm going to make up a little ground in buy-in because, like I said, if I thought the book took itself too seriously, or I, as the reader, was so invested in taking it seriously, the buy-in's like 1 or 2 in terms of the believability buy-in. But the fact that I was along for the ride, it didn't matter if you were transporting body parts through a machine across continents. That part to me did not at all take away from the story. So I'm not going to ding it for that on buy-in. And I'm actually going to give it some cred here with a 4 out of 5. And here's a big reason why. The buy-in with the action is huge. The buy-in with the ladies and their dialogue and operating and their relationship with their handler, Rob, is awesome. I already talked about I kind of like the spy versus spy versus spy. I liked who's handling who, and they meet in the cabin. I thought it was a lot of fun. And so I'm bought in as a story that I'm just reading for pleasure. And the last thing I was bought into, we didn't bring up the history aspects. When we were getting the information dump about Operation Overcast,
yeah, that was
which
cool.
was like a second wave of Operation Paperclip. Operation Paperclip, super cool how we kind of co-opted Nazi scientists and engineers for our aims after the war and got them out of Nuremberg trials. And they're the ones who basically, launched our space program and so many other scientific feats. We were also doing that with the actual physical tech, the actual experiments and technology they were building in these bunkers. We were repurposing and requisitioning them, not just the people and their talents, which is heavily documented, but Brad makes up this idea that we actually were taking their tech, their experiments, their physical property, like the Angletor, and trying to steal that. I just thought it was a cool historical connection that works a bit better than some of Brad's other historical connections from Thomas Jefferson and the clocks, or, Hannibal Lecter and the Muslim killing disease, or whatever it was.
Right.
I thought this one worked a little better. So 4 out of 5 on buy-in for that, regardless of all the crazy just stuff that was so fantastical. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I concur everything about you, and I gave an extra half point in plot, but I'll go in a half point low in buy-in, so it nets out to the same score, and I'll give it a 3.5.
No, man, you got the halves today. I think the Athena project it's a half book.
Yeah, yeah. So
it could go higher, it could go lower. So yeah,
believability about just some of the stuff in the book obviously puts it low, but I think the enjoyment of being buy-in is not just do I buy that this could take place, because if we truly went off that for everything, it would be very low in most of these things, But I do believe I am bought into the idea of what the Athena team is, their establishment as real players. I like I said, I enjoyed this novel. So, what about the bad guys, Mike?
Yeah, some of them were really good, very interesting. You put this many cooks in the kitchen, you're like, who is the real bad guy? And then you randomly throw someone named Thomas Sanders in there.
I know,
the last, 50 pages.
I was like, who the fuck is this Thomas Sanders guy? Sorry, who the heck is this Thomas
all
Sanders
these farm
guy?
Names. It's like Bianchi, Bronco Koyage, Armando Brescian. Oh, and by the way, Thomas Sanders. It's like Colonel Sanders is in this book.
And that mad scientist from Australia was kind of crazy too.
Oh, the Australian scientist. Oh, he's the one who sends the prostitutes through the machine, right?
He's like, they were whores. They were whores.
He was bananas, that guy.
It
was like O'Bressian was running him and keeping him in the game, even though he knew he was kind of crazy. He thought he could control him.
Right.
Yeah. I guess some of them were more memorable than I had first thought.
Yeah, and the idea of the amalgam, which is going to, I think, continue in the next novel, is very appealing to me. This idea that there's this consortium, like Spectre in James Bond, of villains, this cabal that are secretly running things. That's what hell, half the people on Twitter think is really happening right now. So,
Illuminati.
The Illuminati, yeah. I don't know. I like that kind of stuff. I've read other novels that are like with that as the main antagonist, right? So, I'll dig it a little bit for the amount of them, and not giving us even though I think Obrescian's probably like the biggest big bad in this novel, I didn't fully understand.
He's the big bad.
I didn't fully understand his true motivations. We didn't get much about who he is, other than the fact that he wants to rule the world, right? So yeah, I'd go for a 3.5, 3.5, right in the middle.
I think a 4 is being too generous. A 3 is probably not deserved. I think you're going to have halves on everything here, man. Well, the next one, Good Guys, you better not have a half. Unless you're going 5.5, because the Good Guys has to be a 5. Like I said, from the ladies, from Rob Hutton to Scott coming in to Tracy getting back, like hands down, 5 out of 5 on the Good Guys. But one other bad guy scene, when Obressian is talking to that Russian gangster, that was like a really cool dialogue.
Yeah, it was. That was a cool scene.
And then he blows him up at the end. That was like edge of your seat. I thought it was like something out of Goodfellas, just the way it was written. And these two kind of crime boss titans are going back and forth with each other, throwing their weight around, yet neither one budges. And they actually walk away from each other. I'm like, whoa, they couldn't strike a deal. Like, what does this mean? Like two warlords or gang lords walking away from each other saying we didn't get a deal. Like, the storm is coming. Those two groups are going to clash. Yet Obressian gets the upper hand, just blowing the dude up on the spot. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, and like this idea of like, all right, I obviously, he has to play this like fine line of he can't just kill this Russian KGB guy, because then, or like the mafia guy, because he's gonna have the mafia come on him. So how can I do it where it makes it look like I'm not the bad guy? Instead, the Ukrainians take the fall, and then like I'll kill the Ukrainians so they can't talk. Yeah, even though it was like very quick, pretty well thought out and interesting.
And that's how Athena gets him. They tell the guy, oh, we know who did this. It's a Brescian or it's this group, this other gang, rival gang, and we've got them cornered, when secretly they want to corner a Brescian, but they get the mafia, the rival gang, thinking they blew up this guy's uncle. They get them to do the dirty work.
Right.
So Athena takes advantage of that kind of beef, internal beef. Yeah. Setting, like I said, we traveled heavy. What do you think about the setting when the dust settles and it's said and done?
I could go 3.5, like sort of right in the middle. We kind of like we said before, we didn't get enough. We got a lot, but we were just like little bits and tasting everything.
Yeah.
I like the Venice stuff. I like there was a little bit of a description about the castle and the Germany and what the Nazis were doing. A little bit about, what was happening in Croatia. And obviously the Denver airport. I don't know. Like we got like little things, but just it wasn't like quintessential Brad setting. Like what we were getting back to, like what we started out with, like lions and stuff like that. And then I felt like we were really getting back into it in the last two novels. And this was just having places to have places.
Yeah, I hear you there. I think one that I'll add though is I really liked In the Woods, in the cabin with Vicky,
right, in
Denver, her spy stuff. Yeah, they'd go on runs, they'd meet in the cabin. So I think that setting was good. Again, we just went to too many places across southeastern Europe where I didn't have the flavor of any of them. They were one-dimensional. So yeah, Venice was great, but everything else, yeah, I got to go with 3. Chris, it's that time. Everybody's favorite segment. Judge a cover, buy the book. How you feeling about these?
All right, so we got some ones that have some female faces on them. Okay.
Sure.
So we got a female that's a gun. I had to zoom in to see that's the barrel of a gun. Now I can see it.
Yeah, I didn't know that at first. It just looks like some weird dot on her chin.
Right. But that's the barrel. So do you know where this is in B?
I don't. Yeah, I actually don't know where B is, where C is, D or any of them.
That's C is Venice, right? That's the plot.
I had thought so. Is that St. Mark's?
It could be Croatia. Like I know, like that kind of architecture could be either Venice or Croatian.
I mean, St. Mark's does have a big dome, but I've never seen it from that angle.
Right,
it's possible. It's a little more bulbous on the top. I mean, that dome actually looks more like St. Peter's than it does St. Mark's.
Sure. Yeah.
But we never go to Rome. And then the other dome on the right, the one with the more angles, I have no idea what that is, because that's definitely not Rome. I don't know.
Yeah, see, like where were they at in Croatia again? Which peninsula?
Somewhere on the Istrian
Peninsula.
But I don't know what town's there. Is that where Zagreb is? Yeah.
Yeah, that almost looks like Rome, to be honest with you.
That does look like St. Peter's, which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, which doesn't make any sense. And then we get
and D is D Venice? No.
Yeah, I guess D could be Venice. It actually looks more like a river in Germany or Belgium or something like that,
Right, it does. And then F, I don't even know. I mean, D and F, I'm willing to... B, D, and F, I'll just chalk up to one of the many Southeastern Europe.
Sure. It has like that flavor of...
It has the flavor, at least.
Mm-hmm. So what about...
E, I think that's an actual statue of Athena, which is pretty cool.
That is cool.
I don't know if it's like the original Athena. There was an Athena in the Acropolis at Athens. I know there was a real famous statue there. I don't know if that's the one. I mean, maybe that'd be pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, smart move in cover E to put the real Athena on there. B is pretty good, man. I'll be honest, for not knowing where it is, it at least has the feel of whether it's a castle in the Czech Republic or another one of these buildings or just the streets where they're chasing people in Croatia, Slovenia, Serbia, wherever. It gives me that feel. And the artistic layout of it, and I really, really like my favorite part of it, how the Athena project is left margin justified and not center justified. For some reason, the way the arches are laid out, by putting the on the left side and having the margin line up on the left, it just works perfectly. I feel like that cover, if you centered the text, would be all out of whack and off balance because the arches are off centered. You don't have one arch in the middle and then equal parts arch left and right. And I love the composition of B. So for me, I don't particularly like any of the covers. The half face, I get you wanted to show a woman on the cover, which, okay, some element of that I understand, but the half face isn't doing it. And particularly in A, you put the face and the gun and the text in just terrible positioning.
Right.
Like, it literally, as her eyes, says ho. Like, literally, her eyes, in the spot where her eyes are, says ho from Thor. Like, that's just bananas-ly. Or her eyes are underneath the R and the A. I feel like for something that looks super artsy, you know, you're going for this shadow, this woman, the smoking gun. It's supposed to be artsy, yet the composition is just terrible.
Yeah, so that is Athena. I was just looking this up. That's Athena on a statue in Athens from E.
Oh, that is the Athens one.
Yeah, there is another one at the Acropolis, but this is a different one.
And that's a shield, right? That we're seeing a spear and a shield. She usually holds. Yeah.
Yeah, you're saying like where they put the eyes, like yeah. No, the cover A, which I guess that's the original cover. Not a big fan.
Yeah, no.
I like B, the paperback, and I don't mind C. You know, although if that's Rome, kind of dings it a little bit, but I like the color scheme. I like the A, you know, the sort of A, artistic A for Athena Project. So
that symbol.
I don't know. We didn't love them. It's a 3, 2.5, 3. Give it a bump up. What are you going, Mike?
I think because I like B so much, and C isn't atrocious because some in the cover line that is cover C here, where they just drop that symbol. I think these are the new paperback reprints. I think they're still releasing some of these as we speak, you know, month by month. They just put that symbol in the middle, and oftentimes they don't make any sense. I mean, this one's clearly an A. It's a triangle, maybe some conspiracy stuff. It's an A for Athena. So I think that definitely works for me. And because B is so awesome, I'm really having a good time with B. I'm going to go up to 3.5. Yeah, not great, but they're going to steal that half point for me.
And if this is your first time listening to a podcast, welcome. And if you don't know what we're talking about, go check out our posts for each episode on our socials, on our website, thrillerpod.com, and you will see A through F. And you can follow along. So I should just put that plug in every time.
And if you listen on Spotify, you should get the cover art. So I believe Spotify does cover art, but I don't think Apple Podcast does. So
yeah, no, it's our thumbnail. So unfortunately.
Right. Exactly. Well, free space time. Let's round this up. What'd you like the most? What's the winner of the book?
Oh, okay. What do I go with? There's a couple things I could go with. I really like that Voracek guy. I thought he was pretty funny.
Really? Okay.
I like the Scott cameos.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. You tell me yours. I have a couple. I'm thinking.
I mean, I said it, so I'm not going to go too much. It's the whole Bianchi op. It's how we open the book. Right off the gates, you know, from the prologue leading into that scene, you're getting some really badass action right in the beginning. I love everything about that sequence. Kind of a bummer. My favorite scene came so early on. I'm not saying the rest of the book was a downer, but like that set a really high bar to try to live up to early on, which is a good thing in the end because I love that scene. So everything about it.
I like the connections that the Athena team had with each other. I felt like, even if we didn't get too much, as for you didn't get too much like distinction about who each individual was. You really got the sense that this was a team.
Yeah.
And how, they had just came off the mission from the last book and immediately are dumped into this, and they go nonstop. And like Brett does a good job of like sort of adding some realism into this, like how like exhausted these people would be. He's very good with that with Scott as well. But I don't know. I just think I like the Athena team. Like that's my winner. Like it's an easy one to take, but I like them a lot.
No, 100%. I agree. Absolutely. I think that brings me to a grand total of 40 out of 50. I mean, this book, I enjoyed it, had a good time. And I think that leaves you at 1, 2, 3, 4.
39?
39. Did I do
39.
That right?
39.
39. Put that Cornell education to work.
Yeah,
39 and 40 out of 50. There's one important question, though, I have to ask you before we could wrap this thing up. Perhaps the most important question. Do you like the ballet?
I do like the ballet.
Is your favorite ballet the Nutcracker?
We didn't even talk about that scene where we talked about the other torture scene, which was gruesome,
dude,
with the collarbone and then flipping him on like down on like this makeshift inversion table.
Was that Cooper? Is Cooper the one who interrogates people?
No, that's Rhodes. That was Rhodes.
That's Rose, right? You said that. Man, yeah, she was vicious in that. And then I don't think they end up doing it. Well, they do have the guy's ball testicle in a vice. I don't think they end up doing too much damage.
They don't crack his nuts, but they do squeeze.
Dude, when she asked him if he likes the ballet, I nearly lost my mind. It was one of the few times in a thriller where I'm laughing out loud. I'm howling. Like that was, I was like, where are they going with this? And then when she brought up Nutcracker, I'm just like, oh, how did I not see it coming? How did I not see it?
I'm just laughing when they like put him into the prone position. I don't know why I'm laughing at this. And then
psychological warfare there.
And then he's wearing a thong, like, and she like cuts off his thong. Like the way like Brad writes that, it's just like he had fun writing that chapter. You could just tell.
Oh, he was having so much fun. Oh man, dude. But then there's real life stuff of like, again, this is the whole thing about the Athena team. It's not just they're using their sexuality and whatever, in this flippant way. It's like, no, there's research-based practices that says a woman in a dominating position getting a man, particularly in some cultures, to take that position is like ultimate weakness, in that culture's eyes. And that person is going to be left totally vulnerable, stripped of their humanity. It's so dehumanizing to them that it gives you an advantage in an interrogation. Right? So like, they're not just doing this to be savages and it's like, look, women are being cool and badass here. It's like, no, they're actually doing this because they have a tactical advantage in the field that is expertly done and researched and verified. And now they're just executing the mission, So to me, the fact that they're using that kind of stuff is brilliant, not just because it's good storytelling, but because in some sense it's good operations.
I agree. I can't believe we missed that scene. Well, good thing you remembered it.
I originally wanted to open up. We just jumped right into the book. But when you said, and how you doing today, Mike? I was going to say, well, Chris, I'm doing all right, but I got one question for you. Do you like the ballet?
That was so funny.
Or what's your favorite ballet, Chris?
What's your favorite ballet? Mine is the Nutcracker.
That is the only one I know of. So it, by default, is my favorite.
I'm trying to think.
I can name some operas.
I can name some operas. Yeah, I was going to say that, but I can't name any other ballets. So yeah, that tells you how cultured.
Be a Romeo and Juliet one, no?
Tells you how cultured we are. All right. Anything else you want to say before we close up here?
Now I got to go and crack open this Jack Carr novel that we got in the mail. Only the Dead is the next book. Oh, yeah. Next one we'll be covering here on No Limits. Well, not this feed, but on the No Limits second feed or third feed at this point, the Thriller podcast, we are bringing back James Reese. We've got our advanced copies of Only the Dead. So by the time you listen to this, the book might be out. It's a mid-May release date. And within a week or so of publication, we are going to get our thoughts out to you. A 2-part episode on, what is this, book 6 in the James Reese series?
Yeah, it is. That means I got to get reading.
It's a thick one.
It is a thick one. We may have to be doing this like we used to, only read half the book and record, and then read the second half and record. So
that may be what happens.
All right, we need to thank our patrons, our special operator, Sherry F., our special agents, Daryl, Kevin, George, Matt, Ben, Matt, Dawn, Peggy, Ray, Bridget, and Mark. Please subscribe, rate, and review to all 3 seasons of No Limits using Apple Podcast or Spotify. You can find us online at thrillerpod.com or on Twitter and Instagram at thrillerpodcast. And as always, let Athena be Athena.